Affirmative action in the Culture War Encyclopedia. You may have heard about the Supreme Court ruling on July 29, 2023 regarding affirmative action. Over at the Culture War Encyclopedia, we now have in the written version of the encyclopedia a section on affirmative action in the culture war. And we have, on platforms that don't take our money or tax money and then violate our constitutional rights, video versions of some sections of the Culture War Encyclopedia, such as the section on affirmative action. The written version first explains what affirmative action is. I then give the views on affirmative action from critical race theorists and from Tal Warwick, also known as Styx Hexenhammer 666. I quote from two of his books. And from some of the Supreme Court justices focusing on their partisan divide in their ruling on the matter, and from others, including the delightfully stupid AOC and someone on Twitter going by Erica Marsh. There's links, citations, and references for everything. Now, here's some of the highlights from the video version, which is too long to upload from here where we live up in the mountains. Just can't do it until we get a better connection some year. Well, enjoy. Here's another one from a critical race theorist. You know, Tabby, this big red book that I've been reading for a long time now. One of the essays in here from 1990, I believe. Let's see here. Nope, from 1995. I have footnotes for everything, thankfully. He argues for affirmative action. This is Duncan McLean Kennedy. He argues for affirmative action, racial affirmative action, in legal academia, quote, on the ground that law schools are political institutions, unquote. So I think he's lumping in private with public institutions. Now keep that in mind. He writes that in his essay, his, quote, goal is to develop in the specific context of law school affirmative action the conception of, quote, race consciousness, unquote, which Gary Peller describes, unquote. Now, I'm working on the section on race consciousness in the Culture War Encyclopedia, and I've already written a lot about what this Gary Peller has to say about it. It's basically saying it's the opposite of colorblindness. All right. Duncan calls society's concept of merit in academia, a system in which one gets what one earns, quote, colorblind meritocratic fundamentalism, unquote. Yeah. He complains of, quote, the fetishistic, neurotic, and just plain irrational attitude towards, quote-unquote, standards and merit-based, quote-unquote, entitlement that prevails in legal academia, unquote. So this guy's against people getting what they earn, and private institutions, apparently. He argues for redefining merit. Surprise, surprise, somebody from the critical race crowd wanting to redefine a word. He wants to redefine merit to mean some combination of race plus merit in some ratio. This, it seems, is why he uses the term colorblind meritocratic fundamentalism to refer to merit, rather than just, well, I don't know, merit. One might fairly argue that redefining merit as merit plus race is like, well, I don't know, redefining racism as racism plus power. Oh, they already do that, don't they? Yeah. Duncan McLean Kennedy writes, quote, I favor large-scale race-based affirmative action using quotas if they are necessary to produce results, unquote, which means equity, not equality. Duncan explicitly states that theirs is a, quote, white ruling class male academic, unquote, take on the matter. All right, so he's saying he's white ruling class and male and academic, educated. Duncan writes of the, quote, unquote, alienation and, quote, anti-meritocratic alienation, unquote, he felt in his, quote, experience as a white male ruling class child who got good grades, gained admission to one elite institution after another, and then landed a job and eventually tenure at Harvard Law School, unquote. So feel sorry for him. He also wrote of feeling, quote, alienation within this lived experience of working for success, according to the criteria of merit, unquote, and, quote, a sense of shame and guilt at living in unjust, segregated racial privilege, unquote. This guy's writing in 1995, by the way. Which, taken along with his argument, these statements from him, taken along with his argument in favor of race-based affirmative action, adds up to something like, to me, tell me what you think, Tabby, what I'm hearing is, I achieve success through merit, but black people need affirmative action, race-based affirmative action to achieve success. You want to elaborate?
Anybody who's not white like him is too dumb.
That's what it seems like.
That's what he's saying.
That's what I'm getting.
That's what he's fucking saying. If you're saying that somebody who happens to have black skin, is not capable of getting to the same position in life based solely upon their merit, you're calling them stupid based upon their color.
Yeah, and incapable.
That makes you a racist asshole.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you the good guy. It makes you a white savior dick.
Yeah.
That's what it makes you. That's all you are. That's all you are. At the end of the day, you're a racist with a white savior complex. You suck. You're not helping.
Yeah.
You're just hurting.
Also with a guilt complex, too.
Yes.
Shame and guilt for...
Well, that's if he even feels guilty. Some people act guilty in order to get pity from others.
Right.
Or to seem like they're giving. You know? Like, oh, I'm so giving of myself that I feel bad for you. And it's just fucking...
What a good boy
it's all
am I,
surface crap so that people will go, you really are a good person. That's wonderful. Right. Look at you all selfless and whatnot.
You're such a
selfless
good person.
People don't preach about being fucking selfless. They just are.
Yeah, right.
Like a smart person is just smart.
Yeah.
They don't go around going, I'm the smartest one in the fucking room. No. They don't need the validation. They just understand it as a part of themselves.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself to everybody who wants to make it some shit. It's the same thing if you're a good person. You're just a good person. You're not thinking about it. You're just doing good things. You're thinking about it in a calculated manner. Oh, if I do this good thing, then I'll get blah, blah, blah. Or blah, blah, blah will happen in the positive for me. You're not a good person. You're a fucking user.
Yeah.
You're a snake. You're a leech. You're somebody who must siphon goodness off of an appearance instead of actually being good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really vile.
If you didn't have a reward, you wouldn't fucking care. Yeah. That makes you a bad person, because good people just want to do nice things.
Right, and this guy's arguing against merit, too, you know? This guy's arguing against merit. Yeah, against earning.
He's calling black people stupid.
Yeah.
That's fucking retarded on his part. Like, how dare you?
So that's what it comes across. More insight into Duncan is provided by the passage where he writes that our society should be one that, quote, deliberately structures institutions so that communities and social classes share wealth and power, unquote. In conclusion, Duncan Kennedy writes that their proposal is, quote, a kind of cultural proportional representation. By the way, they mean racial when they say cultural. You gotta, if you read the whole essay, you understand when they say cultural and they mean racial. So, quote, a kind of cultural proportional representation in the exercise of ideological power through legal academia, unquote, and writes that it, quote, would be a very small step, unquote, in the direction of, quote, an American multicultural society, unquote, that, quote, will arise out of guilt, anger, mistrust, cynicism, bitter conflict, and a great deal of confusion and contradiction, if it arises at all, and it would be, to my mind, the more wonderful for it, unquote. Gee, Tabby, I want to say self-loathing, elitist communist with a sense of racial superiority and with a white savior complex, like you were saying.
Just sick.
Weird. Yep. Now, these critical race theorists I went over, by the time you see this video, there'll probably be more. But there are various forms of dishonesty, one's lying by omission. And what all these critical race theorists leave out of their definitions and discussions of affirmative action is, at least in the case of college admissions, is its racist aspects. Yeah. As we'll explain in the next section. Now, folks, don't be drinking a liquid with this next tweet. She then, a while later, a little over an hour later, if anyone is a defamation lawyer who works on contingency, please direct message me. Thanks. Oops. She's like, she wants to sue for being defamed because, like, people are calling her, like, racist by saying that black people are inferior.
Dumbass. No lawyer's gonna fucking sign with you other than to take your money, you fucking vapid bitch. You cannot prove that they are...
And you can watch that. It's good stuff. Comic relief number 2. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez puts her hoof in her mouth. I should have written again. Shortly after the Supreme Court decision, Cortez tweeted, "If SCOTUS was serious about their ludicrous quote-unquote colorblindness claims, they would have abolished legacy admissions, aka affirmative action for the privileged. 70% of Harvard's legacy applicants are white. Supreme Court of the United States didn't touch on that.
Also paid for a substantial portion of the building,
which have impacted them and their patrons." So again, folks, let me just make this really clear. She's complaining that they dealt with one of the cases they had before them to deal with because of the way that Supreme Court works, right? The way the Supreme Court works. And she's suggesting something they don't do, which is that they just go after a certain other issue in society. Mm-hmm. That's not how it works. Now, look.
That's how Dum Dum wants it to work.
Alrighty, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. And look in the description below. There will be links to the Culture War Encyclopedia. It's still work in progress. The ones that you can click on, go ahead and do so. Those are complete. These are placeholders, meaning that this is something I plan to come back to. But there's a lot so far, like the affirmative action we were just going over. Also in the description is a link to this right here. This is one page with links to everything Culture War Encyclopedia, including the Culture War Encyclopedia itself, and videos like this one on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, and Brighteon, and on social media so far, locals. And also Just in Trouble. Yes, I still do Just in Trouble written reports, and I still do Just in Trouble videos on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, and Brighteon. And I'm still on social media. And there's Tabby's videos, and there's some delightful little photos for your own eye candy right there as well. Check out Tabby's videos on Rumble. Again, thank you, everyone. Till next time, liberty, strength, honor, justice, truth, love, and laughter. And thank you very much, my love, Tabby.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.